In the harsh Arizona territory of 1873, where gold fever fuels men's greed and freedom remains an empty promise for many, Elijah Freeman arrives with nothing but his tracking skills and the memory of chains. Hired to hunt down so-called outlaws, disrupting a wealthy mining operation, this former slave discovers a terrible truth. He's been tasked with capturing his own people seeking true liberation. Elijah must choose between the land he's always dreamed of owning or standing with those who understand that freedom cannot be measured in acres or gold. Elijah Freeman stood at the crossroads, rifle aimed at Harriet. Behind her, dozens of former slaves waited in terrified silence. Mining magnate Victor Blackwood stepped forward, bag of gold coins jingling. "Kill her, Freeman. Prove your loyalty." Harriet's eyes locked with Elijah's. "You know what freedom really costs." Elijah's finger trembled on the trigger. The weight of his decision pressed down like the Arizona sun. The wind kicked up dust around their feet, circling like judgment. 3 weeks earlier, prosperity wasn't built for men like Elijah. The mining town sprawled across the valley floor, its wooden buildings fresh-cut and hopeful. Money flowed like the whiskey in its 4 saloons. Elijah led his horse down the main street. Men stepped aside, not out of respect but wariness. His cavalry bearing and the scars on his wrists told different stories. The stable boy took his horse with downcast eyes. "Need work," Elijah said. "Try the saloons. They always need someone to clean up messes." Elijah nodded. He'd been cleaning up white men's messes since before the war. That night he slept on hay, the stable owner charging him half what a room would cost. Beneath his head, wrapped in oilcloth, lay his father's pocket watch and his discharge papers from the 10th Cavalry. Buffalo soldiers, they called them, fighting for a country that still saw them as less than whole. Morning brought no work. Noon the same. By evening, Elijah counted his coins. Not enough for another night, even in the stables. The fight broke out in the Golden Pick, just as Elijah finished sweeping the boardwalk outside. 2 miners, faces, red with whiskey, smashed through the bat-wing doors. One held a knife. Elijah moved without thought. His hand caught the knife wielder's wrist, twisting until the weapon fell. His boot swept the man's feet from under him. The second miner received an elbow to the sternum that dropped him gasping. 10 seconds. The street went silent. "Impressive." The voice came from the saloon doorway. A man in an Eastern suit, silver watch chain across his vest. "Very impressive indeed." Victor Blackwood owned most of prosperity. His mines produced gold that flowed east on trains he also owned. His handshake was firm, his smile cold. "I need a man with your skills," Blackwood said, pouring whiskey in his office behind the saloon. Someone being hunted can recognize the signs of others being hunted. Elijah didn't touch his glass. "What's the job?" "Outlaws, stealing my ore shipments. The sheriff is useless. I need someone who can track." "I track. Don't kill unless necessary." Blackwood smiled. "Even better. Bring them in alive. There's a reward." The bag of coins landed heavy on the desk. Elijah didn't reach for it. "How much total?" "Enough to buy 50 acres of good land. Water rights included." The land pulled at Elijah's mind. Since the war, he'd dreamed of soil that belonged to him. No master, no orders, just earth responding to his hands. "I'll find them." Dawn found Elijah studying tracks outside a raided way station. The thieves were careful but not invisible. 5 horses, one rider lighter than the others. All shod recently, but one horse favored its left foreleg. He followed their trail into the mountains where pine forests provided cover. They'd skirted settlements keeping to game trails. Smart. Night brought cold and memories. His father's voice, the escape through swamplands, the dogs, his brother's small hand slipping from his as the current took him. Freedom had already cost too much. The outlaw camp appeared on the 3rd day, hidden in a box canyon, defensible. Elijah watched from the ridgeline as figures moved below. They weren't what he expected. Women, children, old men. A settlement, not a bandit hideout. A rider approached the camp, small-framed, moving with purpose. The leader, Elijah guessed. He adjusted his field glasses. The rider dismounted, removed her hat and mask. Elijah's breath caught. Harriet. The memories flooded back. The plantation in Georgia. Harriet had been the housekeeper's daughter. She'd disappeared one night when Elijah was 14. Many whispered she'd been caught by patrollers, killed. Others said she'd made it north. Now she stood before him, alive, organizing what looked like supplies taken from Blackwood's shipments. Elijah retreated unseen. His mind raced with complications. Blackwood waited in his office, maps spread across his desk. Well, they're skilled, moving north. Mexican border is my guess. The lie came easily. Need more time to confirm. Blackwood frowned. You found nothing in 3 days? Tracks show 5 men. Professional thieves. They separate. After raids meet at different locations. Another lie. I need another week. You have 4 days. Blackwood pushed a small purse across the desk. Expenses. Over the next days, Elijah split his time. To the town, he was hunting outlaws. In truth, he watched Blackwood's operation. The mine entrance swarmed with workers. Guards with rifles stood at intervals. The workers themselves wore no chains, but moved with the same careful deference Elijah remembered from the plantation. Most were black men, a few Mexicans. Their eyes held the vacant stare of men who knew protest meant pain. A supply wagon left the mine. Elijah followed, keeping to the tree line. At the county work camp, the wagon stopped. 10 black men in striped uniforms were loaded on, new workers for the mine. That night, Elijah rode to the box canyon. A sentry spotted him immediately. I come to speak with Harriet, he called. Tell her Elijah Freeman is here. The wait was long. 4 men with rifles escorted him into camp, blindfolded. When the cloth was removed, Harriet stood before him. Older, harder, but unmistakable. The master's hound returns, she said. I belong to no master. Yet you hunt for one. Around them, the settlement buzzed with purpose. Cabins under construction, gardens planted. Children, free-born children, played between canvas tents. Blackwood doesn't know what you've built here, Elijah said. He thinks you're just thieves. We take what was stolen first, Harriet replied. The ore comes from our land. The supplies replace what his kind have taken from our people for generations. A boy ran past, no more than 7. His smile flashed white in the firelight. Isaiah, come meet our guest, Harriet called. The boy approached cautiously. His eyes were bright like Elijah's brothers had been. Are you really a buffalo soldier? Isaiah asked. Miss Harriet said you fought in the war. I did. Did you kill many rebels? Killing isn't something to seek, Elijah said. Freedom is. Harriet's gaze softened slightly. And what will you do with yours, Elijah Freeman? Return to Blackwood. Tell him where to find us. The question hung in the night air, sharp as a blade against skin. Elijah left the canyon under cover of darkness. The question followed him down the mountain. What would he do with his freedom? Prosperity's streets felt different now. The glow from saloon windows no longer promised opportunity, but exposed the town's hollow core. Blackwood waited in his office the next morning. His eyes narrowed at Elijah's report. Still heading north seems convenient. Tracking takes time. Time costs money. Blackwood drummed his fingers on his desk. Perhaps you need motivation. The window behind him framed the mine entrance. A new group of workers shuffled inside, their backs bent not from labor but from something deeper. Your mines use convict labor, Elijah said. Criminals serving their debt to society. Blackwood smiled. The law provides 20 years for vagrancy, 10 for disturbing the peace. Judge Holloway understands progress requires sacrifice. The air in the room thickened. Elijah's hands remained steady at his sides. I need another week. You have 3 days. Blackwood opened a drawer. But here's something to sweeten our arrangement. The deed lay unfolded on the desk. 50 acres along the river. Good soil, water rights, trees for building. Succeed, and this land is yours. Blackwood's smile didn't reach his eyes. Plus a position as foreman. I need men who understand discipline. Outside, Elijah breathed the dusty air. The land deeds promise burned in his mind. But beneath it lay another fire, the expression on Isaiah's face when he spoke of freedom. The quiet dignity of the settlement in the canyon. They called it Freehaven. The name tasted like water after drought. 3 nights later, Elijah returned to the settlement. This time, Harriet met him at the sentry post. She led him to her cabin, a simple structure built against the canyon wall. "Why come back?" she asked. "Blackwood uses convict labor. Men arrested for being black in the wrong place." Harriet nodded. Nothing about this surprised her. "They built an underground route," she said, "like the one that failed to save your brother." The mention of his brother hit Elijah like a physical blow. He steadied himself against the cabin wall. "We help families escape," Harriet continued. "Get them to Freehaven or further north. The railroad takes some to Canada." "Blackwood doesn't care about your raids," Elijah said. "He wants this land." He described the deed he'd seen, the water rights, the proposed position as foreman. "And what will you choose?" Harriet asked. The question hung between them. Outside, the settlement prepared for night. A woman sang softly to her child. Men checked sentry positions, the ordinary sounds of freedom. "I don't know," Elijah admitted. Isaiah appeared at the cabin door. The boy's smile broke through the tension. "Mr. Freeman, will you show me how buffalo soldiers shoot?" Harriet's expression softened. "Not tonight, Isaiah. Mr. Freeman needs rest." "Tomorrow?" The hope in the boy's voice cut deeper than any accusation. "Tomorrow," Elijah found himself saying. Morning brought clarity to the mountains. Elijah showed Isaiah how to sight along. A rifle barrel, how to control his breathing, how to respect the weapon's power. "My pa had a gun," Isaiah said. "But the patrollers took it. Then they took him." Elijah's hands stilled on the rifle. "When?" "Last spring. They said he stole, but he didn't. We was free. Had papers." The boy's matter-of-fact tone carried more weight than tears. "Miss Harriet found us after, brought us here." Isaiah adjusted his grip on the rifle. "When I grow up, I'm going to be like you. Help people be free." The words settled in Elijah's chest like stones. He hadn't helped anyone be free. He'd fought in a war, survived, looked for land to call his own. But freedom? That evening, Harriet showed him the full extent of Freehaven, the hidden spring that provided water, the defensive positions, the escape routes, 23 families, 76 souls. "Blackwood has sent for bounty hunters," Elijah told her. "Professional killers. They arrive in 1 week." Harriet's face remained impassive. Only her hands, tightening on her rifle strap, betrayed her concern. "We've moved before, we can move again." "Not everyone will make it. Some freedom is worth the risk." They stood on a ridge overlooking the settlement. Below, lanterns flickered like earthbound stars. The quiet industry of people building their own future. "Join us," Harriet said, not begging, offering. For a moment, Elijah saw another future. Not 50 acres with water rights, not a foreman's position, but something larger. A community. Purpose beyond survival. The moment broke when a sentry whistled. Riders approaching. Elijah recognized Marcus, one of Freehaven's scouts. He'd ridden out 2 days earlier to check the mountain passes. Now he returned, pushed forward by 3 armed men. "Found this one watching the north road," one of the men said. "Says he's hunting." Marcus met Elijah's gaze. No recognition. No betrayal. Just the silent understanding of men accustomed to hiding truth. "He's with me," Elijah said, checking escape routes. The men released Marcus. Later, by the fire, the scout reported. Blackwood's men watch all roads now, doubled the patrols. Time is running out, Harriet said. That night Elijah couldn't sleep. The land deed haunted him. 50 acres, trees, water, independence. Against that, Isaiah's eyes, Marcus's steady gaze, Harriet's quiet strength. Before dawn, he made his decision. Sunrise found him riding into prosperity. The town stirred like a living thing, unaware of its role in others' oppression. Sheriff Mills watched from his office porch as Elijah tied his horse. "Found those outlaws yet?" Mills asked. "Working on it. Blackwood's getting impatient. Says you're taking too long. Tracking's not like marshaling. Takes patience." Mills spat tobacco juice into the dirt. "Patience ain't Blackwood's strength." In the general store, Elijah purchased supplies, ammunition, canteens, dried meat. The storekeeper watched with narrowed eyes as Elijah counted out coins. Heading out again? Following a lead. That afternoon, Elijah met with Blackwood. The mine owner's office felt colder now. Less promise, more threat. 3 days have passed, Blackwood said. "Where are my outlaws?" "Getting closer. They're heading into the high country." "And you're certain?" "Yes." Blackwood studied him. The silence stretched between them like a bowstring. "Show me on the map." Elijah pointed to a valley 20 miles east of Freehaven. "Their camp is here." "Interesting." Blackwood unfolded another map. His finger tapped a spot. "My sources say otherwise." The location he indicated was 5 miles from Freehaven. "Too close." "Your sources are wrong." "Perhaps." Blackwood refolded the map. "We'll know soon enough. The bounty hunters arrive in 4 days." That night, Sheriff Mills followed Elijah to the edge of town. The lawman made no effort to hide his presence. "Blackwood thinks you're lying," Mills said. "Says you found the outlaws but won't tell him." Blackwood sees conspiracies everywhere. Sometimes he's right. Mills stepped closer, his hand rested on his pistol. "I'm not fond of Blackwood, but I am fond of law and order." "Which law?" Elijah asked. "The one that puts men in chains for the crime of existing?" Mills's eyes hardened. "Watch yourself, Freeman. That kind of talk breeds trouble." Elijah met his gaze. "Trouble's already here. Just depends which side you're standing on when it breaks." Elijah's decision crystallized like frost on a window pane. Freehaven needed to move. Now. He rode out before dawn, supplies carefully hidden in his saddlebags. Sheriff Mills watched from the shadows of the jail, but made no move to stop him. The mountain air bit cold against Elijah's face. Spring came late to these heights, like freedom. Harriet met him at the edge of the settlement. Her eyes took in his expression. The extra supplies. "You've chosen," she said. "Blackwood knows. Not exactly where, but close enough. His bounty hunters arrive in 4 days." The news rippled through Freehaven. No panic. These people knew crisis, intimately. Within an hour, the evacuation plan unfolded with practiced precision. Isaiah found Elijah as he helped reinforce a wagon axle. "Are you coming with us, Mr. Freeman?" The boy's hands were small against the wagon wheel, but steady. "Yes." "What about your land?" Land that wasn't truly his, never would be, no matter what paper Blackwood signed. Some things matter more. They worked side by side. The boy's questions came between hammer blows. About the war, about the Buffalo Soldiers, about freedom. Elijah answered what he could. By midday, half the settlement was packed. The first wagons would leave at dusk, traveling under darkness. The most vulnerable first. Children, elders. The rest would follow in stages. Harriet found Elijah checking the trail markers. "Marcus hasn't returned," she said. The scout had left 2 days earlier to survey the escape route. "Could be watching the road, making sure it's clear." or captured. The word hung between them, the unsaid knowledge of what capture meant. Evening shadows lengthened across the canyon. The first wagons stood ready. Families embraced those staying behind. No tears. These partings had happened before. I need to check the North Pass, Elijah said. Make sure it's clear. Take Samuel with you. Elijah shook his head. Faster alone. The ride to the pass took an hour. No sign of Marcus. No sign of pursuit. Only the wind through pine needles speaking in tongues Elijah couldn't translate. The sun touched the western peaks when Elijah returned. Something was wrong. The camp, too quiet. Harriet waited by the main fire. Her face told the story before words could. Marcus? Brought in an hour ago. 2 of our men found him on the east trail. Marcus lay in Harriet's cabin, his face swollen beyond recognition, one eye sealed shut. His breathing came shallow, pained. Blackwood's men, he whispered, asked about the settlement. I told them nothing. Elijah knew better. Every man broke eventually. The only question was what they broke for. Marcus's hand gripped Elijah's arm with surprising strength. They know about the gold, under the settlement. Gold. Always gold. The reason for Blackwood's maps, his interest in worthless rocky land. His determination. How long do we have? They plan to tell Blackwood tonight, attack at dawn. Elijah's mind raced. Dawn was 8 hours away. The evacuation plan required 3 days. We need to leave now. All of us. Harriet's expression hardened. Half our people are still packing. The elderly can't travel fast. They'll have to. Outside, Elijah ordered the remaining wagons prepared, possessions abandoned, only essentials, food, water, weapons, every horse and mule harnessed. Isaiah helped organize the younger children, his small face set in determination beyond his years. The first shots came at midnight, riders on the ridge above the canyon. Warning shots meant to cause panic. Elijah positioned defenders at the canyon mouth, not to defeat the attackers, but to buy time. The first wagons were already moving through the back exit, a narrow trail only recently widened enough for wheels. They're earlier than Marcus said, Harriet observed. Blackwood doesn't trust the dawn. Neither did Elijah. Dawn revealed too much. Better to attack in darkness when fear multiplied every shadow. More riders appeared on the canyon rim. Torches illuminated their positions. Too many to fight. We need more time, Harriet said. I'll give it to you. How? Elijah mounted his horse. By becoming what Blackwood hired me to be. He rode out alone, rifle held high. A signal for parley. The riders on the ridge hesitated. Then one broke from the group. As he descended, Elijah recognized Sheriff Mills. They met in the open ground before the canyon mouth. You've chosen poorly, Freeman, Mills said. I've chosen freedom. There's a price on your head now. Conspiracy. Aiding fugitives. What fugitives? These people have broken no laws. Mills laughed without humor. Law is what men like Blackwood say it is. The truth of this settled on Elijah's shoulders like a familiar weight. Give me until morning, Elijah said. Let the women and children go. Can't do that. Then I have nothing to offer but resistance. Mills studied him. The lawman's face reflected calculations, possibilities. Blackwood wants bloodshed, Mills said finally. Wants to make an example. And you? I want a peaceful town. Dead bodies bring questions from the territorial governor. A sliver of opportunity, narrow as a knife blade. 2 hours, Mills said. I'll hold my men that long, then we come in. 2 hours, not enough, but more than they had. Elijah returned to find the evacuation accelerated. Harriet had used the parley time well. Half the remaining wagons were gone. Mills gave us 2 hours. Why? Even dogs tire of their masters eventually. They worked in near silence, loading the last wagons, helping the elderly. Covering tracks. Isaiah organized a group of children to scatter pine cones along the trail, hiding wheel ruts. The settlement emptied like a body bleeding out. Structures that had sheltered hope stood abandoned. Dreams left behind in the rush toward survival. With 30 minutes remaining, only Elijah, Harriet, and a rear guard of 6 men remained. The last wagon had departed 10 minutes earlier, carrying Marcus, and the last of the elderly. "Time to go," Elijah said. "You first," Harriet replied. "We'll cover the tracks." An old argument, one they'd had 3 times in 2 hours. Together or not at all. A flash of irritation crossed Harriet's face, then understanding, then something deeper. "Your brother," she said. "You couldn't save him." The memory surged through Elijah. The swamp water, the small hand slipping from his, the current taking what he loved most. "I was supposed to protect him." "And you think you must protect all of us to make amends?" No answer would suffice, only action. They mounted together, the rear guard already 50 yards ahead on the trail. The canyon quiet now, emptied of life and hope and future. The shot cracked from the ridge. A warning. Time expired. They rode hard, hooves striking sparks against stone. Behind them, shouts, the thunder of pursuit. The trail narrowed, climbing through scrub pine. Harriet led, knowing every turn. Elijah brought up the rear, watching for followers. They caught the rear guard at a stream crossing. No sign of pursuit. "Mills kept his word," Elijah said. "For now," Harriet replied. They rode through the remainder of the night. The trail connected to others, spreading like veins across the territory, each wagon taking a different route. Rendezvous points established weeks before, when Freehaven first prepared escape plans. Dawn found them in a boxed meadow 10 miles from the settlement. 12 wagons gathered, nearly 60 people, less than half of Freehaven's population. The others? Elijah asked. "Already moving north," Harriet said. "If all goes well, we'll rejoin at the meeting point in 3 days." Isaiah ran to Elijah's horse. The boy's face brightened at the sight of him. "You made it." "So did you." A shout from the perimeter, a rider approaching. Fast. Elijah's rifle came up instinctively, but the rider was one of their own. A young man named Joseph, assigned to watch the back trail. "Sheriff's posse," Joseph reported between gasping breaths. 20 men at least. Blackwood with them. "How far?" Harriet demanded. 2 miles. Moving. Fast. 2 miles. Perhaps 20 minutes. Elijah surveyed the meadow. Defensible, but only with time to prepare. Time they didn't have. "We need to move. Now." "The teams are exhausted," Harriet said. "They need rest." "They'll get a permanent rest if Blackwood catches us here." No argument. Only the frantic activity of people accustomed to fleeing, but not fast enough. 10 minutes later, dusk on, the trail, riders. Elijah positioned riflemen behind rocks at the meadow entrance. 6 men, 12 shots if they reloaded fast, against 20. "Get the wagons moving," he told Harriet. "We'll hold them as long as we can." She gripped his arm. Words unnecessary. The shared recognition that some separations are final. The first. Riders appeared at the meadow entrance. Sheriff Mills, Blackwood beside him. Behind them, armed men. Too many. "Freeman," Mills called. "It's over." Elijah stepped into view, rifle at his side. Non-threatening, but unmistakably ready. These people have committed no crime. Blackwood says otherwise. Blackwood is not. The law? Mills's expression shifted, almost apologetic. "Today he is." Blackwood urged his horse forward. His city clothes had been replaced by riding gear. A gentleman playing at frontier justice. "You've disappointed me, Freeman," Blackwood said. "I offered you land, position, a future. Built on other men's backs. All futures are." Behind Elijah, the wagons were moving, too slowly. The creak of wheels carried across the meadow. "They can't outrun us," Blackwood said. No one can outrun progress. He gestured to his men. They fanned out, rifles ready. The moment stretched like a bowstring pulled to breaking. Elijah's finger rested lightly on his trigger. The first shot would unleash chaos. And behind him, Isaiah watched from the last wagon, the future witnessing the past's desperate stand. Time slowed to the pace of a heartbeat. Elijah's vision narrowed to Blackwood's smug face. Behind him, Isaiah watched, the future witnessing whether the past would break or stand. A voice cut through the tension. Sheriff Mills. The deputy, Daniels, rode hard into the meadow, his horse lathered from exertion. Federal marshals, Daniels gasped. 10 miles back. Coming this way. Mills's expression shifted, the ground under his authority suddenly less stable. What marshals? Blackwood demanded. Don't know, sir, but they've got papers. Daniels looked at Mills. Asked specifically about convict labor at the mines. A beat of silence. The world rebalancing. Mills, Blackwood hissed. Handle this. But the sheriff's eyes had changed. Calculation replaced certainty. Stand down, Mills ordered his men. What? Blackwood's face flushed crimson. Federal marshals mean federal judges. Federal judges mean questions I don't want to answer. They have no jurisdiction here. Tell them that. Mills turned to Elijah. You have until the marshals arrive. Then we'll let the law decide. The law? Blackwood's hand moved toward his coat. Mills's pistol appeared with startling speed. My kind of law, Blackwood. The kind that keeps the peace. Blackwood's hand froze. His eyes darted between Mills and Elijah, measuring odds. This isn't over, Freeman. It never is, Elijah replied. The standoff held another moment. Then Blackwood wheeled his horse, spurring, it back toward town. Half his men followed. The others waited for Mills's orders. You've made an enemy, Mills told Elijah. He won't forget. Neither will I. Mills nodded, a gesture of respect between men who understood the weight of choices. Marshals will be here soon. Better have your story straight. The sheriff and his remaining men withdrew to the meadow's edge, close enough to watch, far enough to grant privacy. Elijah returned to the wagons. Harriet waited, her eyes questioning. Federal marshals coming, he explained. Mills is waiting for them. Marshals mean government. Government means we run. Not this time. Elijah's certainty surprised even himself. These marshals asked about the convict labor, about Blackwood. Harriet's skepticism showed plainly. A lifetime of betrayal taught hard lessons. What if it's a trap? Then we're already caught. The wagons formed a defensive circle. Riflemen took positions. The weight stretched like an over-tightened wire. An hour later, dust on the road. Riders approaching. 5 men in long coats. Badges catching sunlight like small declarations of authority. Their leader, a weathered man with iron gray hair, dismounted before Mills. Words were exchanged. Maps consulted. Mills pointed toward the wagons. The marshal nodded. Elijah walked out to meet them. Harriet beside him. Their steps matched in rhythm, shoulders squared against whatever justice these men brought. The marshal introduced himself as Calloway. His eyes were clear, direct. The gaze of a man accustomed to measuring truth. You Freeman? He asked. I am. Got some interesting reports about this area. Convict labor, false arrests, land swindles. Calloway glanced toward Mills. Local law seems compromised. What does that mean for us? Depends. These folks all free citizens? Yes. With papers to prove it? Most. Calloway nodded, unsurprised. And this settlement Blackwood claims you stole? Built on unclaimed land, same as any homestead. The marshal unfolded a document. Official, seals embossed the bottom. According to territorial records, this land was properly claimed through the Homestead Act 6 months ago. He looked up. By a Harriet Washington. Harriet stepped forward, her voice steady. That's me. Got your papers? From her pocket she produced folded documents. Calloway examined them, nodded. Seems in order, which makes Blackwood's claims of theft questionable at best. Relief washed through the camp like a summer rain. Not complete. Not yet. But the first drops of a coming change. Calloway wasn't finished. We'll need statements from everyone about the conditions at Blackwood's mines, the arrests, everything. And then, Elijah asked, then we bring charges. Wire the territorial governor. Start setting things right. Words promising more than they could deliver. But something. The next hours blurred. Statements taken, stories recorded in official ledgers, the history of oppression transcribed into evidence. By evening, the marshals had heard enough. Calloway found Elijah checking the wagons. We're heading to Prosperity tonight. Blackwood won't expect us until morning. What happens to him? Best case, prison. Worst case, fines and restrictions. Calloway's mouth tightened. Justice is imperfect. And these people? The land is legally theirs. No one can dispute that now. Elijah nodded. The victory felt partial, incomplete. What about you, Freeman? The sheriff mentioned a bounty on your head. For helping my people. For interfering with Blackwood's operations. Different words, same crime. Calloway studied him. In that gaze, Elijah recognized something rare. Fairness. Those charges won't stand. Not with what we know now. The marshal extended his hand. In fact, the territory could use men like you. Men who understand justice isn't just a word in a book. The offer hung between them. Sheriff's badge implied, but not stated. Elijah looked across the camp. Harriet directing the reorganization. Isaiah helping distribute food. A community rebuilding itself, moment by moment. I appreciate the offer, but I'm needed here. Calloway nodded, understanding. The marshals departed at dusk. Mills and his men followed, the sheriff uncharacteristically subdued. That night the camp celebrated, not loudly, not with abandon, but with the quiet joy of people who recognized a moment's peace for the gift it was. Elijah found a spot away from the fires, the stars overhead silent witnesses to the day's events. Harriet joined him, her presence a comfort in its certainty. What now? She asked. Rebuild. Again. At Freehaven? Wherever you decide. She considered this. The weight of leadership evident in her stillness. The gold complicates things. Others will come when they learn of it. Then we'll be ready. Morning brought offers. The mayor of Prosperity, now without Blackwood's influence, invited Elijah to become sheriff. The federal marshals reiterated their interest in hiring him. Land speculators, hearing of his tracking skills, proposed partnerships. Each offer carried the same promise: position, status, belonging. Each felt hollow. 3 days later, the scattered members of Freehaven reunited at the designated meeting point. Joyful reunions tempered by the knowledge that safety remained temporary. A council was called. The future of the settlement debated. Some argued for staying, claiming the protection of federal recognition. Others advocated moving north, away from territories where memories ran bitter. Elijah listened without speaking, his place in this community not yet defined. Until Isaiah found him after the council. Are you leaving, Mr. Freeman? The boy's face showed he'd already experienced too many departures. Why would I leave? Heard Miss Harriet say you got offered sheriff. I did. That's important work. So is this. Isaiah considered this with a child's directness. You could stay, teach me more about shooting. Is that what you want to learn? Shooting? Want to learn freedom? How to keep it? Isaiah kicked at the dirt. My pa said freedom ain't free. Your father was right. So you'll stay? The question asked more than his words conveyed. Would Elijah commit? Would he build something lasting? Would he stand when others fled? I'll stay. The decision, once made, settled into Elijah's bones. Right as rain. True as sunrise. That evening, Harriet announced the council's decision. They would rebuild Freehaven. Not in the canyon, but on Harriet's legally registered homestead. They would request federal protection, establish legal rights, create something permanent. The settlement buzzed with purpose, new hope tempered by old caution, the future uncertain but facing it together. A week later, as the first new structures rose on the homestead land, Elijah rode alone into the desert. His destination a spot he'd marked mentally years before. A grave with no marker. The digging went quicker than he remembered. The ground, softer. Or perhaps his arms stronger. The metal box lay where he'd buried it. 10 years of desert soil had not disturbed its contents. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, his father's pocket watch, left behind when Elijah joined the cavalry. Too painful a reminder of what had been lost. He unwrapped it now. The tarnished silver case. The delicate hands frozen at the moment of burial. The watch wouldn't run. Too many years in the ground. But something made him open the case. Check the inscription he'd memorized long ago. To Jacob Freeman. A man owns nothing but his time. But beneath it, previously unnoticed, another line. Smaller. Added later. Time belongs only to the free. Elijah closed his hand around the watch. The metal warmed against his palm. A connection. Cross years to a man who had died so his son might live unclaimed by others. He returned to find the community gathered. A name-giving ceremony for the new settlement. Proposals offered and debated. Freehaven again. New hope. Liberty. Harriet saw Elijah at the edge of the gathering. Her eyes noted the watch in his hand. Understanding passed between them. Freeman, she said. We'll call it Freeman. The name rippled through the crowd. Approval in nodded heads and murmured agreement. A place called Freedom, built by people who understood its cost, led by those who had paid the price. Isaiah found Elijah after the ceremony, the boy's smile bright against the gathering dusk. Mr. Freeman, does this mean the town is named after you? No. It's named after all of us. The boy considered this. Wisdom beyond his years in his solemn nod. My pa would have liked that. Yes, Elijah said. I expect he would. He opened his hand. The pocket watch caught the last light of day. A circle of silver promising nothing but bearing witness to everything. Time belongs only to the free. And that is all to the story for now. Please let me know where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will create a story there. Consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. It helps motivate me write each story. See you tomorrow.